Hello and welcome to my channel. In this video we will be looking at AQA Alevel Psychology 2022 Paper 1 Exemplar Answers for Psychopathology, which you need to know for AQA Alevel Psychology. I hope you enjoy this video and find it helpful. Let's get started. Please note that these answers have been produced with knowledge of the mark scheme but have not been approved by the mark scheme themselves. There are 3 assessment objectives, AOs, in psychology. In this video they are color-coded. AO1 Knowledge, purple. AO2 Application, blue. AO3 Evaluation, red and green. Question 1. Describe the statistical infrequency and failure to function adequately definitions of abnormality. 6 marks. Statistical infrequency is defined as abnormal behavior, thinking or traits that are statistically or numerically rare, uncommon or anomalous within a population. It relies on the use of up-to-date statistics and focuses on the quantity of behavior measured in standard deviations from the mean rather than the quality, occupying the extreme ends of a normal distribution curve. For example, low IQ is defined as an intellectual disability disorder, but high IQ is also defined as an intellectual disability. Failure to function adequately is defined as abnormal behavior that causes personal distress or distress to others and anguish or inability to cope and deal with the demands of everyday life and living. Rosenhan and Seligman, 1989, suggested 7 criteria that are typical of FFA, including personal distress, anxiety, depression and fear, unpredictability, displaying unexpected behaviors and loss of control, irrationality, vividness, observer discomfort, violation of moral standards and maladaptive and dangerous behavior. The more features of personal dysfunction a person has, the more they are considered abnormal. To assess how well individuals cope with everyday life, clinicians use the Global Assessment of Functioning Scale, GAF, which quantifiably rates a person's level of social, occupational, and psychological functioning on a scale of 0 to 100 and the extent to which a mental disorder affects an individual's ability to function adequately. A person who scores highly, e.g. 80+, will have few if any symptoms that prevent their ability to function, whereas a person with a very low score, less than 20, will struggle in society and may even be a danger to themselves or others. Question 2. Outline one limitation of systematic desensitization as a treatment for phobias. 3 marks. A limitation of systematic desensitization as a treatment of phobias is that it is time-consuming and expensive. Systematic desensitization is a slow process and patients need to attend numerous appointments to be trained in relaxation techniques, and gradual exposure can take many sessions. The patient will also need to build a trusting relationship with their therapist, which in itself is difficult and can take time. Also, the strategy is dependent on the skill set of the therapist themselves, which can affect how long this treatment takes or if it works at all. This is a limitation because it suggests that the effectiveness of systematic desensitization may be hindered by the time and financial commitment required from patients. A biological psychologist wanted to see if there was a positive correlation between heart rate, measured in beats per minute, and levels of a stress hormone, measured in micrograms, in people with obsessive-compulsive disorder, OCD. She wrote a directional hypothesis and collected data from 20 people with OCD. The psychologist chose to use the Pearson's R test to analyze the data because she was testing for a correlation. Question 3. Explain one other reason why the psychologist used a Pearson's R test in this study. 2 marks. The level of measurement used in the dataset is internal data because the data uses a continuous scale which includes equal units of precisely defined size with no absolute zero and is parametric, objective and mathematical, e.g. beats per minute. Question 4. The calculated value of R for the Pearson's test was plus 0.42. Which one of the following scattergrams best represents a correlation coefficient of plus 0.42? Shade 1 box only. 1 mark. Diagram C best represents a correlation of plus 0.42. The researcher used the following table of critical values. Table 1 critical values of R for Pearson's test. Calculated value of R must be equal to or more than the critical value for significance to be shown. Degrees of freedom, df, equals n, 2. Question 5. Is the psychologist's calculated value significant? With reference to Table 1, explain your answer. 4 marks. The result is significant at the 0.05 level, as the calculated value is more than 0.378, the critical value, a one-tailed test was used, or because the researcher's hypothesis was directional and the df is 18 or n, 2 is 18, 20-2. Question 6. Discuss the genetic explanation for obsessive-compulsive disorder, OCD. 8 marks. The genetic explanation of OCD suggests that OCD is a genetically inherited predisposition and vulnerability that it passed down from generation to generation through particular and specific genes. SERT and COMT genes have been found to appear mutated in individuals with OCD. SERT, serotonin transporter, gene regulates serotonin levels in the brain. A mutation causes an increase in transporter proteins at a neuron's membrane, leading to an increase in the reuptake of serotonin in the neuron, which decreases the level of serotonin in the synapse and causes mood irregulation and problems with emotional processing. Variations in this gene, such as the 5-HTTLPR polymorphism, have been linked to an increased risk of OCD. COMT, catechol-O-methyltransferase, gene regulates the function of dopamine. A mutation causes a decrease in COMT activity and can affect the breakdown of dopamine, which may influence various cognitive and emotional processes. Specifically, the Val158-MET polymorphism variant has been associated with differences in executive function and susceptibility OCD. Nested et al., 2010, aimed to investigate whether there were genetic and environmental contributions to the risk of developing obsessive-compulsive disorder, OCD. They conducted a family study using participants with a diagnosis of obsessive-compulsive disorder, OCD, and their first-degree relatives. They conducted structured interviews to assess the presence of OCD and related psychiatric disorders among the participants and their family members. The study also included a control group of individuals without OCD to compare the prevalence of the disorder in families. By analyzing the data collected from these interviews, the researchers aimed to calculate the heritability of OCD and examine the familial aggregation of the disorder. This approach allowed them to determine the genetic and environmental contributions to the risk of developing OCD. They found that identical twins showed a concordance rate of 68% for OCD compared to 32% in fraternal twins. They also found that first-degree relatives have a 11.7% chance of being diagnosed with OCD compared to the general population, where the chance is only a 2.7% chance. They concluded that OCD has a substantial genetic component, with heritability estimates suggesting that genetics account for a significant portion of the risk for developing the disorder. A limitation of twin and family studies is that the findings and conclusions may be due to environmental factors. The higher concordance rate found for identical twins may be due to nurture. Identical twins often grow up in the same household and share similar environments, which can make it difficult to separate genetic factors from environmental ones. This shared environment can lead to an overestimation of the heritability of a trait or disorder. As well, as the social learning theory suggests, family members may also observe and imitate each other's behavior through classical and operant conditioning. Alternatively, family members may be more vulnerable to suffering from OCD because of the shared stressful environment of being in a household or around those with OCD. This is a limitation because it suggests that the influence of environmental factors on the development of OCD cannot be overlooked. It indicates that the shared experiences and conditions of family members may play a significant role in the manifestation of the disorder, potentially confounding the interpretation of genetic contributions. A limitation of twin and family studies is that it cannot be concluded from these studies that genes alone determine who develops OCD. The concordance rates in twin and family studies are not 100%, and therefore not all twins share OCD tendencies despite having the exact same genetics. This suggests that genes only do not create a vulnerability and are not a direct cause, as other factors must trigger the disorder. Environmental influences such as stress, trauma, and life experiences could play a critical role in the onset of OCD. This could explain why some people develop the disorder whilst others with similar genetic backgrounds do not develop OCD. This is a limitation because it suggests that the interplay between genetic and environmental factors is crucial in understanding the development of OCD. It highlights that while genetic predisposition may play a role, it is not the sole determinant, and that environmental triggers, such as stress and trauma, can significantly influence whether someone with a genetic vulnerability actually develops the disorder. Thank you for watching. If you have enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe for more content like this. Bye.